The phone rang on a Tuesday afternoon. It was 3:15. I was watering the violets on my back porch, the ones Robert planted before he passed. The voice on the other end was shaking. "Mrs. Donovan?" "Yes, who's calling?" "This is Brian Foster, the photographer from Daniel's wedding. Do you have a few minutes? I need you to come to my studio, alone. Please don't tell your son yet. You need to see this first." My heart dropped into my stomach. 6 months had passed since that beautiful day when I watched my only son walk down the aisle. 6 months since I'd spent nearly every penny of my savings to make his dream wedding come true. And now a photographer was calling with this kind of urgency. "Did something happen to the photos?" I asked, trying to sound calm. "Ma'am," he took a deep breath, "I found something while reviewing the files. Something you need to see before anyone else does. Please, trust me on this." I hung up with cold hands. I grabbed my purse, that brown leather one I've carried for 15 years, a gift from my Robert, and left without telling anyone. Sarah, my daughter-in-law, was locked in her bedroom. My bedroom, actually. But that's a story for later. The studio was 20 minutes away. Every red light felt like an eternity. My mind was spinning. Were the photos bad? Did he want more money? I'd already paid $4,500 for the complete package. When I arrived, Brian was waiting at the door. Young guy, maybe early 30s, with dark circles under his eyes like he hadn't slept properly. "Thank you for coming so quickly," he said, guiding me to a back room. There was a huge computer screen on, dozens of photos open. "Mrs. Donovan, I didn't want to be the messenger of this, but if it were my mother, I'd want someone to tell her." He clicked on a folder. "These photos here, I was editing the last files that were left over. I zoomed in to adjust the lighting and the image filled the screen. My world collapsed. There, in the back of the reception hall, far from the family's eyes, my daughter-in-law Sarah was pressed against another man. It wasn't an innocent hug. It was a kiss. Hands intertwined, bodies close. Her face had that expression, that intimacy of someone who knows every inch of that mouth. "There's more," Brian murmured, clicking to another photo. 5 images, 5 different angles, all in the same dark corner of the hall. And the man was Kevin Torres, my son's best friend, the best man at the wedding. I felt my stomach turn. I grabbed the table to keep from falling. "When were these taken?" I managed to ask, my voice coming out thin. "During the reception, between 11:30 and midnight, while everyone was dancing, they hid back there." Brian zoomed in on one of the photos. You could see Sarah's wedding dress, that $2,200 dress I paid for, imported with Swarovski crystals. You could see the new ring on her finger, and you could see with absolute clarity that this wasn't a moment of weakness. It was planned. It was intimate. It was pure betrayal. "Why did it take 6 months to show me?" I asked, still unable to take my eyes off the screen. "I delivered all the edited photos 2 months after the wedding, remember? These got lost in the wrong server folder. I only found them last week. I wasn't sure if I should say anything, but I couldn't pretend I didn't see it." I took a deep breath. My throat was burning. "Can you send me these photos?" He nodded and handed me a flash drive. "They're already on here, and Mrs. Donovan, I'm so sorry. I left that studio without direction. I got in my car and just sat there in the parking lot, holding that flash drive like it was a bomb. My son had been betrayed at his own wedding, and I had paid $65,000 to fund the whole charade. But the worst was still to come. Because when I got home that night and saw Sarah laughing on the phone in my living room, using my couch, drinking from my glass, I understood that this wasn't just betrayal. It was a scam, and I was right in the center of it. Let me go back a bit, because for you to understand the pain I felt in that studio, you need to know how it all started. I met Sarah 2 years ago. It was at a Sunday barbecue at my friend Maggie Sullivan's house. Daniel had come with me, grumbling as always. My son was never one for family gatherings. He preferred staying home on his computer, working until dawn at that tech company. 35 years old, single, too focused on his career. I'd already lost hope of seeing grandchildren. But that day, he showed up different. Eyes shining, wide smile. And beside him, a woman with straight blonde hair down to her waist, light eyes, a floral dress that hugged her body just right. "Mom, this is Sarah." She hugged me with that expensive perfume smell, the kind they sell at department stores. Mrs. Donovan, Daniel talks about you so much. What a pleasure to finally meet you. 29 years old, marketing professional, living alone in a small apartment in Cambridge. At least that's what she said. And I was enchanted. Because after 3 years alone, since my Robert left me with that sudden heart attack, leaving me widowed at 64, I'd forgotten what it was like to see my son this happy. Sarah started coming to my house regularly. Every week there was a reason. She'd come for dinner, bring dessert, ask for recipes, always with that sweet manner, calling me Mom. Mom, teach me how to make that stroganoff Daniel loves. Mom, can I ask your advice about my work? Mom, you're the mother-in-law I always dreamed of having. I melted. What an idiot. My house is in Newton, a good area near Boston. 3 bedrooms, large living room, backyard with an apple tree that bears fruit every year. Robert bought this property 30 years ago when it was still being built. We paid for every brick with sweat. When he died, he left me this house and $420,000 in life insurance and savings. I lived off his retirement and mine. I'd worked 40 years as a high school literature teacher. We never lacked anything, never had much extra, but it was mine. It was ours. Daniel grew up in this house. Every room had memories, the mark on the kitchen doorframe where we measured his height every birthday, the chip in the bathroom tile he made playing superhero, the wine stain on the living room wall from that unforgettable New Year's Eve. And Sarah looked at everything with those eyes of someone appraising the price. But I didn't notice. I was too busy feeling like I had a daughter again, because that's what she did to me. She gave me attention, made me feel important again. She called me every day. Mom, how was your day? She sent me messages with cute emojis. She invited me to lunch out, always splitting the bill, of course, but making me feel included. I got attached. And when, after a year of dating, Daniel proposed to her in front of my apple tree, I cried so much I soaked the ground. Mom, you're going to have the daughter-in-law you always wanted, Daniel said, hugging me tight. I believed him. 3 months later, he came to me with the conversation. It was the 3 of us in the living room having coffee after Sunday lunch. Sarah had her nails freshly done, always so put together, that woman. And Daniel was nervously fidgeting with his cup. Mom, we need to talk about the wedding. My heart raced with joy. Have you set the date? Yes, 5 months from now. But the thing is, he looked at Sarah, who made a helpless face. We wanted to do something special, you know, memorable, but our budget is really tight. Sarah put her hand on his arm. Daniel, we don't need a big wedding. What matters is being together. But I saw it in her eyes, that sparkle, that expectation. How much do you need? I asked. Mom, no, we can't accept that. Daniel squeezed my hand. You're my only son. This is the only time I'll see you get married. How much? Sarah sighed as if she were embarrassed. The venue we dream about, with everything we've imagined, comes to $65,000. I swallowed hard. That was a lot of money. But we can do something simpler, she added quickly. Really, Mrs. Donovan, I don't want you to sacrifice yourself. I looked at the 2 of them, saw Daniel holding her hand, that hope in his eyes, and I thought, when will I ever get to make my son this happy again? I'll pay for it, I said. Everything. You'll have the wedding you deserve. Sarah stood up and hugged me. Mom, you're an angel. I promise I'll take very good care of Daniel, and of you too. We're family now. Family. How much that word would cost me. Over the following months, I started transferring the money. First, $28,000 for the venue. She chose a place in Brookline with a garden view, capacity for 120 guests. Then, $2,200 for the dress. It had to be imported, with crystals that looked like a princess gown. Flowers, $5,000. DJ, lighting, favors, invitations, another $12,000. Photographer, $4,500. In the end, it was $65,000, nearly a sixth of everything I had. But the smile on Daniel's face was worth every penny. Or at least that's what I thought. The wedding day was beautiful. Sarah was stunning in that crystal-covered dress. Daniel cried when he saw her walking in. I cried too. Kevin, his best friend since college, gave an emotional speech as best man. Talked about friendship, loyalty, about how Daniel had found the perfect woman. Loyalty. What a bitter joke. The reception was everything they promised. Plenty of food, open bar, people dancing until 2 in the morning. I was exhausted, but happy. I thought I'd fulfilled my role as a mother. After the honeymoon, 15 days in Cancun that they paid for themselves, the two would come back, find an apartment, and get on with their lives. But that's not what happened. 2 weeks after they returned from their trip, Daniel came to see me alone. It was a Saturday morning, and I'd made his favorite blueberry pancakes. "Mom, we need to talk." My stomach tightened. Nothing good ever starts with those words. "What is it, son?" He was stirring his coffee without looking at me. "Sarah's lease ended, and so did mine. We're temporarily staying with a friend of hers, but we can't stay long." I waited for him to continue. "We're looking for a place, but it's difficult. Rents in Boston are insane. $3,000, $4,000 a month for something decent. And with the wedding expenses still on the credit card, plus my student loans." He looked at me. "I'm still paying off $80,000 in loans, Mom. It's crushing me." I understood the request before he even made it. "Do you want to live here?" He finally met my eyes. "Just for a few months, until we save up for rent and a deposit. It would be huge savings. And I don't know, you wouldn't be alone. The house is big. There's space." My heart squeezed. Part of me, the stupid part that still believed in family, was happy, having my son close again. Not waking up in that silent house anymore. Just me and the memories. "Of course, son. This has always been your home, too." His smile was one of relief. "Thank you, Mom. I promise it won't be an inconvenience. Sarah is organized, clean, quiet. You won't even feel like we're here." Lie. They moved in on a rainy Thursday. They brought 3 large suitcases, boxes of books, clothes, objects. Sarah looked at the house like she was evaluating every corner. "Mrs. Donovan, can we use the back bedroom? It's the biggest one." The back bedroom was my bedroom. The bedroom I shared with Robert for 30 years. The bed where he slept for the last time. The closet that still held 2 of his shirts I couldn't bring myself to donate. "Sarah, that's my room." "Oh, but are you using it?" she asked in that innocent tone. "Because if it's not a problem, we were going to sleep there. It has more space, better ventilation, and the front bedroom is smaller but super comfortable for you." Daniel appeared carrying a box. "Mom, it doesn't have to be now. We can wait for you to get organized." But Sarah was already opening the bedroom door. "Oh, wow. Look, honey, it even has a walk-in closet." I stood there, feeling the ground disappear beneath my feet. "Okay," I murmured. "You can have the bedroom." It took me 3 days to move my things to the smaller front bedroom. Each piece of clothing I took from the closet was a stab. Each object I wrapped in newspaper, the wedding photo frame, the music box Robert gave me, the crocheted blanket his mother made, was a piece of me being torn away. Sarah didn't even help. She stayed in the living room on her phone, laughing at something. The first 2 weeks were quiet. Sarah woke up late, had coffee, stayed in the bedroom or went out. Daniel worked all day, came home at 8 at night, had dinner, and went to sleep. I cooked, washed dishes, cleaned the house, like always. But at the end of the 3rd week, things started to change. Sarah walked into the kitchen one Saturday morning while I was preparing lunch. She wrinkled her nose. "Mrs. Donovan, what's that smell?" "I'm making pot roast." "Pot roast?" She made a face. "But it's so heavy and greasy. Daniel is trying to lose weight. Didn't you know?" I didn't know. "Besides, this house smells like food all day long. You need to open more windows, okay?" I opened the window. Kept cooking. The next day, she reorganized my entire kitchen. I walked in that morning and didn't recognize anything. The containers I kept in the top cabinet were now on the bottom. The pots that hung were gone. The spices I left next to the stove were inside a closed plastic box. "Sarah, why did you touch my things?" She came out of the bedroom tying her robe. "Oh, Mom, sorry. It was just so disorganized. I put everything in better order. Now it's more functional." Functional. My kitchen, where I'd cooked for 40 years, had become functional. And that was just the beginning. Over the following days, Sarah started complaining about everything. The living room television was too old. "Mrs. Donovan, this thing is still a flat screen from 2010? Nobody uses these anymore." The furniture was outdated. These leather recliners are hideous. It looks like an old person's house. An old person's house. I was 67 years old. The couch was uncomfortable. The curtains let in too much light. The bathroom had mold in the grout. Every comment was a barb, but I swallowed them because Daniel seemed happy, or at least that's what I wanted to believe. One night, a month after they moved in, Kevin showed up. Daniel asked me to come watch the game. Is that okay, Mrs. Donovan? Of course, Kevin. Make yourself at home. But Daniel wasn't even home. He'd stayed late at work. Kevin stayed. Sat on the couch next to Sarah. The two of them watching television, laughing, talking quietly. I passed through the living room to get water. Saw his hand on the arm of the couch, too close to hers. Need anything, Mrs. Donovan? Sarah asked, smiling. No, I'm going to sleep. I closed my bedroom door, the small bedroom that wasn't really mine, and tried not to think about what I was seeing. But deep down, I already knew. I just didn't want to admit it, because admitting it meant accepting that my son had married a lie, and that I'd paid $65,000 to fund that lie. 2 months after they moved in, Sarah walked into the living room with a home design magazine under her arm. It was Sunday morning and I was having coffee alone. Daniel had gone out for a run, something new Sarah had convinced him to start doing. Mom, can I sit down? Of course. She opened the magazine to a marked page. Modern houses, minimalist, everything white and gray. Nothing that looked like my house. Mrs. Donovan, I have an idea. Daniel and I were talking. Your house is wonderful. It has incredible potential, but it needs some adjustments, you know? I felt the alarm go off in my head. What kind of adjustments? A renovation, nothing too big, she said quickly, smiling. But look, new paint, replace this old furniture, modernize the kitchen, make the bathroom more current. The house would increase in value so much, and you'd feel renewed too. Renewed. Like I was an old piece of furniture needing restoration. Sarah, I don't have money for a renovation right now. I spent a lot on the wedding. I know. She put her hand on mine with that caring, fake manner. But that's exactly why. You invested so much in us. Now let us give back. Daniel and I will pay for the renovation. It's our gift to you. Gift. I don't need it, Sarah. The house is fine the way it is. Mrs. Donovan. She interrupted me, still smiling, but the tone changed. With all due respect, the house isn't fine. It's old. It's falling apart. The exterior plaster is peeling. There's a leak in the kitchen ceiling. The faucets drip. If you don't take care of it now, it'll get worse and more expensive. She wasn't completely wrong. The house did need maintenance. But a complete renovation? Daniel walked in at that moment, sweaty from his run. Mom, did Sarah talk to you about the renovation? She did, but I don't think it's necessary. Mom. He sat next to me. Let us do this. We're living here rent-free, saving money. It's only fair to give back. And honestly, the house needs it. You complain about the dripping faucet yourself, about the shower that keeps breaking. I looked at them both. My son, sweaty with that face of someone who just wants to help. And Sarah with that perfect smile. How much would it cost? Sarah opened a small notebook. She already had values written down. Of course she did. I got some quotes. Between materials and labor, about $40,000 to $45,000. I almost choked on my coffee. But we can split it with you, Daniel said quickly. We'll put in half, you put in the other half. That's $22,500 for each side. It's an investment in the house, Mom. It'll increase in value. $22,500. Almost half of what I'd already spent on the wedding. I don't know, son. Let me think about it. Mrs. Donovan. Sarah closed the magazine. No pressure, okay? But if we're going to do it, it has to be soon. I found a great contractor, but he's really in demand. If we don't decide this week, we'll have to wait months. Pressure without pressure. I spent 3 days thinking, looking at the walls of my house, at the floor that really was worn, at the dripping faucets, at the furniture that had marks from 40 years of use. Maybe they were right. Maybe the house really needed it. On the 4th day, I agreed. Okay, let's do the renovation. Sarah's smile was instant. Oh, Mom, you'll see how beautiful it'll be. Daniel hugged me. Thank you for trusting us, Mom. The next day, Sarah showed up with the contractor, a man in his 50s named Tom, with a clipboard full of papers. He measured, photographed, wrote down everything. Sarah went with him, pointing. Here we knocked down this wall. There we put porcelain tile. This whole kitchen needs to be redone. Knock down the wall? Nobody had said anything about knocking down anything. Sarah, wait, knocking down walls wasn't in the plan. Mom, trust me, it's to expand the living room. It'll be much more modern. Tom handed over the final quote. $45,000. $5,000 more than Sarah had said. It's because I included some improvements, she explained. Like changing the electrical wiring, which is old, essential for safety. Daniel agreed with everything. And I went to the bank, withdrew my $22,500, gave the money to Daniel, who deposited it, along with his part, into Sarah's account. It's to make payments easier, Mom. Sarah is managing everything. The construction started on a Monday. 3 men arrived at 7 in the morning with drills, jackhammers, bags of cement. The noise was deafening. In the first few days, they only broke things. The wall between the living room and kitchen came down. Dust everywhere. Smell of paint, cement, glue. And then they started moving the furniture. Mrs. Donovan, we're going to have to take this old furniture out of here. It's getting in the way of the work. You can put it in the backyard. I'll cover it with a tarp, I suggested. But when I left to go shopping and came back, half the furniture was gone. Sarah, where's Robert's recliner? That moss green leather one that was in the living room? She didn't even look at me, busy on her phone. Oh, that one. I threw it away. It was too old, Mom. Torn, ugly. Nobody would want it. I felt the air leave my lungs. You threw it away? Yes. And that wall clock, too. The one that made noise every hour. I donated it to Tom. He said his mother likes those old-fashioned things. The grandfather clock. The clock Robert bought on our honeymoon in Vermont. The clock that chimed at 6 in the evening, always. And he'd stop what he was doing just to listen. Sarah. My voice came out shaking. You had no right to do that. Those things were mine. They were Robert's. She finally looked at me, and in that look, for the first time, I saw pure coldness. Mrs. Donovan, with all due respect, they were old, worthless things. If I'd asked, you would have stalled and never let me throw them away. I did you a favor. Favor? Favor? My voice rose. You destroyed my husband's memories. Daniel came running in from outside. What's all this yelling? Your son, your wife threw your father's things away. Sarah sighed, playing the victim. Daniel, I just removed that old recliner and a broken clock. It wasn't broken, I shouted. It worked perfectly. Daniel looked at me, then at her. Mom, it was an accident. Sarah was trying to help. Help, Daniel. That recliner was where your father sat every Sunday to read the newspaper. Where he sat the last night before. I couldn't finish. The tears came. Daniel approached. Mom, I know, but it was just a chair. We can buy another similar one. Just a chair. I looked at my son, and for the first time, I didn't recognize him. Get out of here, I murmured. Mom, get out! He left. Sarah, too. I heard the bedroom door slam. My bedroom door. I stood alone in the destroyed living room. Wall without plaster, dust covering everything, the empty space where the moss-green recliner used to be. And I realized they weren't renovating my house. They were erasing my history. The renovation took 2 months. 2 months of noise, dust, strangers coming and going in my house. 2 months watching every familiar corner be destroyed and rebuilt into something I didn't recognize. When they finished, Sarah called me to see the result. Mom, come see. It's incredible. I left my tiny room, because that's what it had become, a cramped little room where my bed and dresser barely fit, and I went to the living room. I stopped at the door and wanted to cry. Everything was white. White walls, white couch, light gray curtains. The hardwood floor Robert had chosen, that warm tone of reclaimed wood, had been covered with cold gray porcelain tile. The wall between the living room and kitchen didn't exist anymore. It was all integrated, open, soulless. The furniture was new, modern, without history. So, isn't it gorgeous? Sarah spun around with her arms open, like she was showing me a palace. It's different, I murmured. Different? It's current. Look at this LED lighting, these neutral colors, this space. Now the house has value. Value. Daniel appeared carrying boxes. Mom, look how cool. It even looks like a new house." It looked like it indeed. And that was exactly the problem, because this wasn't my house anymore. It was theirs. Over the following days, Sarah started imposing more changes. "Mrs. Donovan, now that the house is beautiful, we need to keep it organized, right?" She taped a sheet to the refrigerator. She'd made a schedule of household chores, days to clean each room, times for meals, kitchen rules. Rules in my house. "Look here. Dinner is always at 7. No leaving dishes in the sink after 9. Trash needs to be taken out every night. And here," she pointed to the paper, "I put that you're responsible for lunch since Daniel and I work. But for dinner we rotate. Okay?" She didn't wait for an answer. She left. I looked at that sheet. My life now controlled by schedules from a 29-year-old woman. I started feeling like a guest. I'd wake up early, make coffee in silence, clean the house, prepare lunch. Daniel would leave at 7, come back at 8. Sarah would wake up late, work on her laptop, go out to handle things. Kevin started showing up almost every day. "Hi, Mrs. Donovan. Is Daniel here?" "No, he's at work." "Oh, then I'll wait. Sarah said I could come over." He'd walk in, sit on the new couch, stay there laughing with Sarah, watching series, asking for a glass of water like he was family. One afternoon I passed through the living room and saw them very close. She had the laptop on her lap. He was leaning over looking at the screen, his hand on the back of the couch, too close to her shoulder. "Need something, Mrs. Donovan?" Sarah asked without taking her eyes off the screen. "No, just passing through." But my heart was beating irregularly. I started avoiding the living room. I'd stay locked in my room, reading, watching television quietly, trying not to bother anyone. One night, 3 months after they moved in, I couldn't sleep. It was 2 a.m. and I heard voices in the living room. Quiet, but audible. I opened the door slowly. The hallway was dark. The living room light was on. I got closer and heard, "Calm down, babe. Just a little longer." It was Sarah's voice. "I'm tired of this charade, bye. When are you going to get that power of attorney?" "Rodrigo." My blood froze. "I'm working on it," she answered, irritated. "The old lady is stubborn, but I'll get it. When she signs, everything gets easier. We get control of her account, liquidate the investments, sell the house. And the idiot Daniel?" I heard a low laugh. "He'll swallow everything quietly, like always. He's so blind he doesn't notice anything. Power of attorney. Sell the house. Idiot Daniel." I went back to my room without making noise, sat on the bed shaking. They were planning to rob me, and my son didn't know anything. The next day, I acted like nothing had happened. I made coffee, cleaned the house, smiled when Daniel said good morning. But my head wouldn't stop. A week passed. Sarah was gentler, suspiciously gentle. "Mom, today I'm making a special dinner. Invite Maggie, call people, let's celebrate the new house." On Saturday, she prepared a beautiful table. Food, wine, dessert. Maggie and 2 other couples came. In the middle of dinner, Sarah tapped on her glass. "Everyone, I wanted to make a toast to Mrs. Donovan, who welcomed us with open arms, to family and the future." Everyone applauded. I forced a smile. After dinner, when everyone had left, Sarah and Daniel called me to the living room. "Mom, sit here." My stomach tightened. Daniel pulled out a folder, opened it. There were several papers inside. "Mom, Sarah and I were talking. You're getting older. 67 already, right? And with so much to manage. Accounts, investments, this house. We got worried." "Worried about what?" Sarah put her hand on my arm. "Mom, don't take this the wrong way, but you sometimes forget things. Last week you left the stove on all night. The other day you didn't remember if you'd paid the electric bill." "Lie. I never forgot any of that." "We want to help you," Daniel continued. "That's why we prepared this." He took a document from the folder. "It's a power of attorney. It allows Sarah and me to manage your assets, just to make it easier, so you don't have to worry about anything. Power of attorney." The word I'd heard in their conversation. I took the paper, read it. Power of attorney with full powers. Bank account, investments, property sale, everything. "Daniel, this gives you total control of my life. It's just to help, Mom. For your own good. For my own good." I looked at them both. My son with that face of someone who believes he's doing the right thing, and Sarah with that fake smile, those calculating eyes. I need to think about it. Sarah's smile disappeared. Think about it, Mrs. Donovan. This is for your own benefit. I don't understand the resistance. I said I need to think. I got up, grabbed my purse, left to walk. It was 10 at night, but I needed air. When I came back, the house was dark. I went to my room, locked the door, and cried until the pillow was soaked. My son wanted to take everything from me. Or worse, he didn't want to, but was being manipulated by that snake. I lay there, looking at the ceiling, thinking about Robert, about what he would do in this situation. And then my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I answered. Mrs. Donovan? This is Brian Foster, the photographer from the wedding. Do you have a few minutes? My heart raced. I do. I need you to come to my studio tomorrow if possible. I found something in the photos. Something you need to see. What kind of something? I'd rather show you in person. And please don't tell Daniel yet. I hung up the phone with my hand shaking. That call was going to change everything. I just didn't know yet how much. I didn't sleep that night. I lay there staring at the ceiling of that tiny room, clutching my phone, waiting for morning. At 8 o'clock, I got up, got dressed, and left without saying anything to anyone. Sarah was still asleep. Daniel had already gone to work. Brian was waiting for me at the studio door. He looked even more tired than the first time. Mrs. Donovan, thank you for coming. He guided me to the same back room. Before I show you this, I need you to know something. My mother was recently scammed. A man she trusted, someone who called himself a financial advisor, took almost everything she had. Elder fraud. When I found these photos, I knew I had to tell you. He clicked on the computer. The images appeared. But this time, there was more. I kept digging through the files. Look at the timestamps on these photos. Sarah and Kevin kissing at 11:43, then at 11:58, then at 12:21. But look at this. He opened another photo. Sarah, alone, on her phone. The zoom showed her face clearly. This was at 11:35, right after she cut the cake with Daniel. He opened editing software, zoomed in more on her phone screen. You could see part of a text message. We did it, babe. She paid for everything. Now, phase 2. My hands started shaking. There's more. Brian pulled up another folder. I have a friend who does private investigation work. I asked him to do a quick background check. Mrs. Donovan, Sarah Mitchell isn't who she says she is. He showed me a printed report. Sarah Mitchell. Real name, Sarah Brennan. 3 previous relationships with older men. All ended with lawsuits or settlements for fraud. She specialized in this, finding vulnerable targets, gaining trust, taking everything. And Kevin Torres? My voice came out barely a whisper. They've been together for 4 years. There are old social media photos before they deleted everything. This was planned from the beginning, Mrs. Donovan. I felt tears streaming down my face. What do? You hire a good lawyer and a private investigator, get concrete evidence, recordings, photos, documents, and only then do you confront her. Because when you accuse her, she'll deny everything. She'll say you're confused, senile, and if Daniel believes her, he didn't need to finish. I left there with the flash drive and the printed report clutched in my hands. I spent that afternoon researching. Found a private investigator, James McCarthy. 5-star reviews. I sent him a message. He responded within half an hour. We met at a coffee shop the next day. James was a man in his mid-40s, graying hair, experienced look. He sat across from me and listened to everything without interrupting. Mrs. Donovan, I'm going to be direct. This is a classic case. I've seen dozens like it. Con artist approaches someone with assets, manipulates the family, takes everything. Can I get proof? Yes, but it'll cost $3,500 for 2 weeks of work. Surveillance, recordings, complete investigation of her background. $3,500. More money leaving my account. But this was an investment. This was survival. Start today. He smiled. Already started. I researched her while I was coming here. Over the next 10 days, I acted like the best actress of my life. I was friendly, cheerful. I talked about the renovation, about how special it would be. Sarah was radiant. She'd call Kevin, thinking I didn't see, and celebrate. We got it, babe. She's going to sign. 1 more week and we're rich. On Thursday, James sent me a complete file. 50 pages of investigation. Photos of them in hotels, recordings of conversations planning the scam, timeline of everything. I got them planning to forge your signature if you refused to sign, James told me on the phone. They talked about drugging your food to make you seem confused, then taking you to a doctor they know who would declare you mentally incompetent. My stomach turned. I have everything you need. Now you need a lawyer. I called Michael Brennan, a family law and fraud specialist. He read the report and shook his head. Mrs. Donovan, you have a rock-solid case. I can help you protect your assets. And more, I can prosecute her for fraud, forgery, criminal conspiracy. She could get 2 to 6 years. I don't want to prosecute. I just want her away from me and my son. He thought for a moment. Then let's do something different. Let's ambush her publicly. Gather the family. Present the evidence. Leave her no way out. How? Schedule a dinner, a family event. Invite people who matter, relatives, close friends. During dinner, we show everything, photos, audio, documents, in front of everyone. She won't be able to deny it or manipulate. 3 days later, everything was ready. I called Daniel. Son, I want to have a dinner, a proper celebration. The renovation, you two living here. I want to do it right. His face lit up. That's a great idea, Mom. When? This Saturday. I'll book a private room at that restaurant in Brookline. I'm inviting the whole family. Sarah appeared at the bedroom door, smiling. What a lovely idea, Mom. And after dinner, you can sign the papers. That way it's all official, right? I returned the smile. Yes, let's make it official. Saturday arrived. I woke up with my heart racing. I got dressed in my best outfit, that burgundy dress I'd bought for special occasions. Put on makeup, styled my hair. When Sarah saw me, she laughed. Wow, Mom, you're all dressed up. Are you that happy to sign the papers? I smiled. I'm happy because today is Truth Day. She didn't understand the weight of that phrase. The restaurant was in Brookline, elegant place, with a private room that Michael had reserved. I'd invited Maggie, my cousin Linda, 2 family friends. And of course, Kevin was also on the list. We arrived at 8. Large table, beautiful decoration, discreet waiters. Daniel was happy, talking to everyone. Sarah was stunning, tight red dress, perfect makeup. Kevin arrived last, hugged Daniel, greeted everyone. When he looked at Sarah, they exchanged a quick glance. I saw it, and I smiled inside. During dinner, I talked, laughed, joked. Everyone was light, happy. Until dessert arrived. I stood up, tapped on the wine glass with a knife. Everyone looked at me. Everyone, thank you for being here. This night is special because today I'm going to tell a story about lies, betrayal, and justice. Daniel frowned. Mom, what? Let me finish, son. A waiter brought in a projector screen. Michael, who was discreetly in a corner, turned on the projector. The first photo appeared on the screen. Sarah and Kevin kissing at the wedding. The silence was deafening. Daniel went pale, looked at the screen, then at me, then at Sarah. Mom, what is this? Sarah stood up, face red. Mrs. Donovan, what kind of joke is this? Sit down. My voice came out firm, cutting. I'm not done. She hesitated. Kevin was frozen in his chair, sweating. I clicked the control. The next image appeared, the 2 of them holding hands during the reception. Then another. Her on the phone, the Zoom showing the text. We did it, babe. These photos were taken at your wedding, Daniel, by the photographer I paid $4,500 for. While you were celebrating, your wife was betraying you with your best friend. Daniel turned to Sarah, voice shaking. Sarah, explain this. She tried to cry, put her hands on her face. Daniel, honey, it's not what it looks like. I was emotional. Kevin was comforting me. Lie. I cut her off. I clicked again. Now a document appeared on the screen. Complete investigation. Photos of them together in hotels. Bank statements. You 2 have been dating for 4 years. You planned everything. Kevin introduced you to Daniel on purpose after finding out he was an only child of a widow with assets. Maggie gasped. Linda put her hand over her mouth. That's not true, Sarah shouted. This is all fabricated. Really? I pressed play on the computer. Her voice filled the room. Audio from the conversation I'd heard. Calm down, babe. Just a little longer. I'm tired of this charade, bye. When are you going to get that power of attorney? I'm working on it. The old lady is stubborn, but I'll get it. When she signs, everything gets easier. We get control of her account, liquidate the investments, sell the house. And the idiot Daniel? Her laugh. He'll swallow everything quietly, like always. He's so blind he doesn't notice anything. Daniel closed his eyes, tears streaming down. Sarah tried to leave, but Michael blocked the door. Sit down, Miss Brennan. Or should I say, Miss Sarah Brennan? Because Mitchell isn't even your real name, is it? She froze. I clicked again. Her criminal record appeared, the 3 previous men she'd scammed. You're a professional con artist. You specialize in elder fraud, and you chose my son as your entry point to rob me. The room exploded. People talking, shouting. Maggie stood up. You disgusting piece of trash. Daniel finally stood up, pointing at her. Get out of here now. But I raised my hand. Wait, I'm not done yet. I turned to Sarah. You and Kevin are going to return every cent of the renovation. $45,000. You have 60 days as per the law. Otherwise, I'm filing charges for fraud, forgery, and criminal conspiracy. Michael here, I pointed to the lawyer, already has everything ready. Kevin choked. I don't have that kind of money. Then sell your car, borrow it, figure it out. I don't care. But you're going to pay. I turned to Sarah. And you're leaving my house tomorrow at 10 in the morning. If you're not out, I'm calling the police to remove you. She tried to speak, but I continued. And you can forget any chance of getting anything from Daniel. Marriage annulled due to fraud. You won't take a single thing. Nothing. Michael approached with a paper. I already have the annulment petition here. Proven fraud. The marriage is void. Daniel took the paper, signed without hesitating. Sarah finally exploded. You think you're what? The perfect family? Judith, you're a bitter old woman who paid for company. Daniel, you're a mama's boy who needs mommy for everything. Maggie threw a glass of water in her face. Respect her, you trash. Restaurant security appeared. Michael had already warned them we might need them. They escorted Sarah and Kevin out. She was screaming, fighting. He went in silence, head down. When the door closed, the room fell silent. Daniel collapsed in his chair, face in his hands. Mom, I approached, put my hand on his shoulder. Son, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. I know. She used me, used us, and I defended her when you tried to warn me. I didn't believe you. I knelt in front of him, held his face with both hands. Daniel, you were a victim. She's a professional at this. It wasn't your fault. He cried on my shoulder. My 35-year-old son crying like a child. And I cried too. Because even after everything, after the betrayal, the scam, the humiliation, the pain of seeing my son suffering was greater than anything else. Maggie approached, hugged us both. Linda, too. Soon the whole table was around us, supporting, consoling. When Daniel finally calmed down, he wiped his face and looked at me. Mom, forgive me for everything, for bringing her into your life, for not protecting you. You were deceived, son. You don't need to apologize. I do. I let her destroy your things, take your bedroom, humiliate you in your own house. I failed as a son. I shook my head. You didn't fail. You just trusted the wrong person. And now we fix this. Together. Michael approached. Mrs. Donovan, I need you to know. Tomorrow morning Sarah might try to come back to the house. She might cause problems. I recommend you change the locks tonight and if possible, have someone stay with you. Maggie raised her hand. I'm sleeping there. And my husband too. That witch won't get past the door. We went home that night. Me, Daniel, Maggie and her husband Tom. When we got there, Daniel looked around the white, cold, soulless living room. Mom, we're going to fix this. I'm going to bring your recliner back. I'm going to find a clock just like that one. I'm going to... Son, I held his hand. We'll fix it together. Slowly. He hugged me tight. That night, I slept for the first time in months with the feeling that I'd gotten control of my life back. Sunday, 10 in the morning. I was in the living room waiting. Daniel beside me, tense. Maggie and Tom in the kitchen having coffee. Michael had arrived early with a discreet process server. We'd changed the locks the night before. A locksmith friend of Tom's came urgently, charged $300, did the job in an hour. 10:15. Nothing. 10:30. Silence. Then the doorbell rang. Insistent, repeated. Daniel went to the intercom. "Who is it?" "It's me. Open this door." Sarah's hysterical voice. "Your things are here in suitcases. You can pick them up at the door." "I live there. You can't stop me." Michael approached the intercom. "Miss Brennan, this is the family's attorney. You have an eviction order for matrimonial fraud. Your belongings will be delivered now. If you attempt to enter by force, the police will be called." Silence on the other end. Daniel went downstairs with 3 large suitcases, everything that was hers. I opened the door just enough to pass the suitcases outside. Sarah was there. Messy hair, smudged makeup, wrinkled clothes. Nothing of that perfect woman from weeks ago. "Daniel, please." She tried to grab his arm. "We can talk. I can explain." He pulled his arm away. "Don't touch me. I love you." 4 years, Sarah. His voice came out firm, hard. 4 years you planned this. You used my mother, humiliated her, destroyed my father's memories, and you called me an idiot, a fool. She tried to cry, but nobody believed it. You have 60 days to return the $45,000 from the renovation. If you don't pay, my mother is pressing charges, and this time there won't be a deal. You're going to prison. I don't have that money. Then figure it out. Sell your designer clothes, your jewelry, your perfumes. I don't care. He went back inside, shut the door in her face. We heard her screaming outside for another 5 minutes. Then silence. She left. Daniel leaned against the door, breathing deeply. "Is it over?" "Not yet," I answered. "But we're getting there." Kevin paid the last installment on a Thursday in October, 2 years exactly since it all happened. Michael confirmed by phone. "Mrs. Donovan, it's done. The debt is paid. $45,000 back, every cent." Sarah never paid. She disappeared, changed cities, deleted social media, vanished. "Let it go," I said. "It's not worth hunting down a snake in the bushes." But justice came anyway. A year and a half later, I got a call from a Florida prosecutor. Sarah had been arrested. Elder fraud. She'd applied the same scam to a businessman there, got access to his accounts, stole $400,000. He had recordings, evidence. She got 18 months in federal prison. When I hung up, I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not pity, just emptiness. She'd gotten what she deserved, but that didn't erase what she'd done. Daniel moved into a small apartment 10 minutes from my house. 2 bedrooms, balcony with plants. $2,000 rent that he could finally afford after finishing paying his loans. "Mom, I'm going to visit every week," he promised. "And you'll have lunch with me whenever you want." And he kept his word. Every Sunday he was here or I was there. He also started therapy. We both did. We had to rebuild our relationship brick by brick, conversation by conversation. Some days were harder than others. Some days he still carried guilt, and I still carried anger. But we were building something real this time, not based on what I could give him, but on mutual respect. A year after the scandal, Daniel met someone. Emily, English teacher, 33 years old, simple, genuine. She came to dinner at my house once, treated me with real respect, asked about Robert, praised the house, and when she left, she didn't try to convince me of anything. She just said, "Mrs. Donovan, it was a pleasure meeting you. Your house is beautiful." I told Daniel afterward, "That's a real woman." We used the money Kevin paid to finish fixing the house properly. But this time, my way. We repainted, but not white. We chose a warm beige, like the original color. We removed the gray porcelain and put back hardwood flooring. We rebuilt the wall between the living room and kitchen. We brought back colors, life, memories. It took 3 months, but when we finished, the house was mine again. I never found the exact same recliner. But Daniel searched 3 states until he found one similar. Moss green leather, a bit worn but comfortable, cost $2,800. He paid without blinking. When he brought it home and put it in the living room corner, I sat in it and cried. "It's it, son. It's just like it." The grandfather clock took longer. We searched for weeks, until Linda found an ad online. Antique wall clock, German chime, ringing every hour. Cost $800. When Daniel hung it on the wall and 6 o'clock came, the clock chimed. That familiar, cozy sound that filled the house. I stopped what I was doing, closed my eyes, and felt Robert there with me. "Welcome back, love." I murmured. Today, as I'm telling you this story, I'm 69 years old. Gray hair I don't hide anymore. Wrinkles I carry with pride. Hands that shake a little, but still hold firm to what's mine. I'm sitting in the moss green recliner, the same kind where my Robert used to sit. Next to me, on the wooden side table, a steaming cup of coffee. On the wall, the grandfather clock just chimed 4 in the afternoon. Daniel is in the kitchen with Emily, the two of them preparing dinner. I hear their laughter, the sound of pots, the sound of life happening. And I look around this house, my house, and think about everything I went through. Some people might hear this story and think, poor woman. She was deceived, robbed, humiliated. But you know what I say? I wasn't poor. I was a warrior, because I could have stayed silent. I could have signed that power of attorney, handed over everything, become invisible in my own life. I could have swallowed the humiliations, accepted the version Sarah wanted to impose. The forgetful old woman, confused, getting in the way of the young couple's life. But I didn't accept it. And that's the first lesson I want to leave. Silence isn't peace. Silence is disguised fear. When you stay silent in the face of injustice, you're not being understanding. You're being an accomplice to your own destruction, and I refuse to be an accomplice. People ask me, was it worth it? You spent so much money, suffered so much. And I answer, yes, because I recovered something that no money can buy, my dignity. I learned that a mother's love isn't synonymous with doormat. Loving your son doesn't mean accepting everything, swallowing everything, funding everything. Sometimes it means saying no. It means setting boundaries. It means teaching, even through pain, what respect is. Daniel needed to learn that lesson, and he learned it the hardest way possible. But he learned. Today he's a different man, more attentive, more grateful, more present. He looks at me and really sees me, not as the mother who solves problems or funds dreams, but as Judith, woman, widow, survivor. And that's priceless. I also learned that manipulative people study their victims. Sarah didn't choose me by chance. She saw a lonely widow, an only son, consolidated assets. She saw an opportunity and acted with surgical precision. That's why I say, be careful with people who arrive promising too much. With those who call you mom before building a real relationship. With those who want access too quickly to your life, your accounts, your house. Real intimacy is built with time. Haste is a sign of ulterior motives. I look at the flash drive I still keep in the drawer, the one with the wedding photos, the audio recordings, all the evidence. Sometimes I think about throwing it away, but I don't, because it reminds me of what I'm capable of when I decide to fight back. You are stronger than you imagine. Even when the world tries to convince you that you're too old, too confused, too weak, you're not. You are exactly what you need to be to survive. People ask me, Judith, do you forgive Sarah? And I answer honestly, I don't know. Forgiveness isn't mandatory. Forgiveness isn't something you grant because it's pretty or because someone expects it. I don't carry hatred. I don't keep dwelling on it. But forgiving would require her to show real remorse. And as far as I know, she continues doing the same things, hurting other families. So no, I don't forgive. But I also don't let her occupy space in my head. She doesn't deserve my hatred or my forgiveness. She only deserves my indifference. Emily walks into the living room at that moment, smiling. Mrs. Donovan, dinner's almost ready. Need help getting up? I don't need it, dear. I can still do it myself. She laughs. I know you can. I'm just offering. I get up from the recliner, feel my knee complain, age arriving, but I walk firmly to the kitchen. Daniel set the table. Cloth napkins, nice plates, shining silverware. Mom, I made that chicken with okra you love. I sit down. They sit down. And we say the prayer we always say before eating, tradition that Robert started and that we never abandoned. Thank you, God, for the food, for family, for life. Amen. Amen, they repeat. We eat, talking. Emily tells a funny story about a student. Daniel talks about a new project at work. I listen, participate, laugh, and I realize this is wealth. Not money in the bank, not a big house, not an imported car. This moment, this table, this laughter, After dinner, when they leave, with long hugs, kisses on the forehead, promises to come back on Sunday, I'm alone in the house. But I don't feel alone. I turn on the radio. An old song plays, one of those Robert loved. I dance alone in the living room, running my hand over the furniture, feeling the texture of the wood, the recliner leather, the curtain fabric. All of this is mine. All of this I protected. All of this I reconquered. And when the grandfather clock chimes 6 in the evening, I stop dancing. I look at Robert's portrait hanging on the wall. Love, I did it. I protected our house, protected our son, and I protected myself too. I don't know if it's my imagination, but I swear I see his smile get a little bigger in the photo. So I go to the window, open it, feel the cool evening breeze coming in, and I think about you listening to me now. If you're going through something similar, being manipulated, disrespected, diminished in your own house, know this. You have the right to fight back. No matter your age, no matter who's on the other side, nobody has the right to take your peace, your dignity, your memories. Defend yourself. Set boundaries. Seek help. Gather evidence. And when you're ready, show your claws. Because respect isn't asked for. Respect is imposed. I close the window, turn off the living room lights, go to my room. That tiny room that was too small. But now I'm back in the big room, my room, where I sleep in peace. I lie in bed, pull up the crocheted blanket Robert's mother made, close my eyes, and I sleep with a clear conscience, knowing I did what needed to be done. Those wedding photographs, which should have been just beautiful memories, showed me the truth. And the truth, no matter how painful, always sets you free. Good night. And remember, dignity is non-negotiable. If you've made it this far, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. It's just 2 clicks for you, but it means the world to me. Let me know what you thought about this story in the comments below. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for staying with me until the end, and I'll see you in the next one.